I used to believe love was what people did, not just what they said. But now I know, words can love you while actions quietly rip you apart. I'm Marta. I'm 34. I'm a single mom and my daughter Emma is 8. She's mine in every way that matters. Even if some people still think that blood is what makes a family. Emma came to me when she was barely 2 days old, a bundle swaddled in a thin hospital blanket, tucked into a plastic crib no one ever returned for. I was there because I had spent 3 years on a waitlist. I had folders, evaluations, home studies, but none of that mattered when the nurse placed her in my arms. I looked into her eyes and everything just clicked. People talk about a mother's instinct. I didn't birth her, but I had it. At first, my mom, Anna, seemed to understand. She brought balloons to the house, bought Emma a handmade cradle from some boutique, took 1,000 photos. She said things like, "What a little angel, and you've made me a grandma again." I wanted to believe it. But over the years, things started slipping through the cracks. One time, I still remember the exact street we were driving down. She turned to me in the car and said, "You do realize, Marta, that this is different. It's not the same as if you'd had her yourself." Just like that. Like she was discussing weather. Like it wasn't the first crack in my chest. I told myself it was a generational thing. That she didn't mean harm. That maybe she just needed time. You ever downplay a wound just so you don't have to admit it's bleeding? Emma noticed it too. She never said it out loud. But she always tensed up when my mother came over. She'd stand behind me when Grandma hugged her. She stopped drawing her in family portraits. I still kept inviting my mother over. Still let her host Thanksgiving once. Still watched her show off her Instagram photos with captions like, "Me and my girl." And every time I told myself, it's enough. She's trying. But then came her 60th birthday. Big party. Rented venue. Catered food. Custom cake. A live jazz duo. I paid for everything. Emma helped design the invitation. The night started perfect. People smiled. Emma danced. I gave a toast. Then I went to find my mom. She disappeared for a while. I found her just outside the side hallway, talking to her best friend. She hadn't seen me. Marta just couldn't have a baby, she said, voice lowered. So she pretended adoption was the same thing. But everyone knows it's not truly family. And then came the part that broke something I didn't know was still whole. She's a child from someone else's past. Not ours. Emma was behind the corner. I saw her face. I don't know how long she'd been standing there. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just sat in the corner of the hallway and whispered. I always knew Grandma didn't love me. I just didn't know why. Emma sat on the tiled floor of the hallway in her party dress, white with little gold stars, while her glittery birthday card for Grandma lay unopened beside her, smudged at the corner where she gripped it too hard. I walked straight into the party. Past the music. Past the dancing guests. Grabbed the mic from the singer mid-song. And said into the room. That was the last gift I'll ever give this woman. What if the person you trusted most taught your child what it feels like to be unwanted? I know what you're thinking, that I should have cut her off years ago. But when it's your own mother, you keep hoping love will be enough. The glitter from Emma's birthday card stuck to my fingers all night. Even after I threw it away. The next morning, my mother sent me a message. Let's talk. You're overreacting. Some messages you don't delete. Not because you want to keep them, but because you need to remember exactly what someone chose to say when the mask finally fell. That text from my mother is still on my phone. Let's talk. You're overreacting. No apology. No mention of Emma. Just a command. A dismissal. As if I had embarrassed her. I stared at the screen for 5 minutes before I replied. We're done. Then I blocked her number. I thought that would be the end of it. But cutting someone off doesn't erase the mess they've already left behind. Emma barely spoke the next morning. She didn't ask about school. Didn't want her usual strawberry oatmeal. She just stared at her cereal like it was something she didn't recognize. She finally said, "Was I born wrong?" I didn't know what to say. So I told her the truth. You were born mine. Even if some people are too small to see it. You ever have to explain to a child why someone chose not to love them? A few days later, I started noticing things. Little things that didn't matter on their own, but started painting a picture once I looked closer. Like how my mother always brought a second present for my niece, something bigger, shinier. Or how she'd joke that Emma must have inherited her stubborn streak from whoever her real mother was. Or how family photo albums at her house never included Emma, just my sister's kids. I remembered once, during Christmas, my mother had Emma hand out the gifts to everyone. But when Emma opened hers, it was a puzzle box with the label still half torn off. No name. No card. We thought it was a mistake. Now I'm not so sure. A week after the party, my aunt called. Marta, you need to talk to your mom. She's devastated. I said nothing. She went on. She didn't mean it that way. You know how older people are. They say things wrong. She didn't say it wrong, I said. She said it too clearly. That's when my aunt hesitated and the truth slipped out. Look, she said things before. But not in front of Emma. We all told her to drop it. My throat tightened. All. So it wasn't just my mother. They knew. They'd been hearing this for years. And no one told me. I opened Facebook that night. My mother had already posted a black and white photo from her party, just her and my niece. Captioned, "Family is everything. Grateful for this little angel." Emma had been cropped out. That night, Emma left something on my pillow. It was a drawing crayon on printer paper. 2 stick figures holding hands, one tall, one small. Above it, she'd written in shaky letters, "This is me and my real mommy." I cried so quietly my chest hurt. Would you rather be alone or surrounded by people who smile while slicing you open? People started calling. My cousin. My sister. Even one of my mom's church friends. They said things like, "She didn't mean harm. She's old-fashioned. But she helped you so much with Emma." Yes. She helped babysit. Brought soup when Emma had a fever. Bought her a backpack for first grade. But love that comes with strings isn't love. It's control dressed in politeness. And Emma felt it. That's the part they'll never understand. I opened the hall closet and found a shelf full of Emma's old gifts from Grandma, untouched dolls, unopened puzzles, stuffed animals still in plastic. Not because Emma didn't want them, but because she didn't trust them. Like she knew they came with conditions. A few days later, Emma had a nightmare. She ran into my room crying. She said I wasn't her real anything. I held her all night. And in the morning, I finally did what I should have done years ago. I packed a box. Photo frames. Letters. Gifts from my mother. Everything that whispered a love that had always been half false. And I carried it out to the trash. You ever wonder how long you ignored the signs, just because the lie sounded kinder than the truth? When I opened the last photo album, I found one of Emma as a baby, but my mother had written, "Marta's girl," under it, not "my granddaughter." And then, just as I closed the trash lid, I heard a voice behind me. "I thought you were better than this." She was standing at the gate. Some confrontations aren't planned. They don't come with warning shots or rehearsed lines. They show up on your driveway in broad daylight after everything should have been buried. She stood there in her pale gray coat, holding a casserole dish. As if nothing had happened. As if she hadn't ripped open something raw and still expected to be thanked for the gesture. I didn't move. Just looked at her through the gate. "I thought you were better than this," she repeated, lifting the foil-covered tray like a peace offering. I didn't answer. Because in that moment I realized something. She wasn't here to apologize. She was here to win. She started walking toward the porch anyway, like the decision had already been made. Emma still needs her grandmother. Don't let your pride rob her of that. Pride. That's the word people like her use when you finally set boundaries. Like cutting off poison is ego. Like refusing silence is a tantrum. Put that down and leave, I said quietly. Her jaw twitched. You're really throwing away 34 years of family because of one overheard conversation? I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because that's how absurd pain sounds when it's repackaged as my fault. She stepped closer. You're hurting your daughter more than you're protecting her. And then it happened. Emma opened the door. Barefoot. Hair messy. In her pajamas. She stared at her grandmother, the woman who used to braid her hair, read her stories, give her those tiny heart stickers for good behavior. Then she said one word. Why? My mother froze. Maybe she thought Emma hadn't really heard that night. Maybe she thought children forget things easily. But Emma didn't look confused. She looked done. Why don't you like me? Is it 'cause I'm not yours? The question hit like glass shattering in slow motion. My mother blinked. Stammered. That's not what I meant, sweetheart. You're misunderstanding. Emma stepped behind me. Didn't say another word. That was her answer. That night, my mother posted a story on Instagram. A sunset. Captioned, sometimes love gets punished. But God sees the truth. Comments flooded in, you're such a strong woman. Emma saw it on my phone. She didn't say anything. Just shook her head. The next week, I learned something that made my stomach drop. Emma's teacher asked to speak with me privately after school. We've noticed some changes in Emma's drawings, she said gently. She handed me a folder. Inside were 3 crayon pictures, each one more heartbreaking than the last. In one, Emma had drawn herself with a broken heart above her head. In another, she stood outside a house with everyone else inside. And the last one, the one that still keeps me up, was just a single sentence in shaky, crooked letters. I don't fit. What if the real damage isn't what they say, but how long you keep pretending they didn't say it? I went home and cried in the shower. Not the pretty kind of crying, the shaking, breathless kind that feels like your ribs are splitting open from the inside. I felt like I had failed her. Not by adopting her, but by allowing even 1 second of doubt to reach her. And when I looked in the mirror afterward, I said it out loud. You're never letting that woman near her again. That night, Emma crawled into bed with me. "Mommy, are we a real family?" I squeezed her hand. "We're the only kind of real that matters." Then I went downstairs. I pulled out the fireproof box where I keep all our legal documents. Adoption paperwork. Custody letters. My will. I started rewriting things. Because it wasn't just about protection anymore. It was about legacy. And clarity. And the first change I made? Removing my mother's name from everything. I took down the framed photo of my mother holding Emma as a baby, the one that used to hang in the hallway. I replaced it with Emma's latest drawing, a bright yellow sun and the words, "Me and Mommy against the world." The next morning, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. Elegant envelope. My name in perfect cursive. It was from my mother. I stood in the kitchen for 5 minutes before opening it. The smell of her perfume hit me first, that same lavender she's worn since I was a kid. Inside was a single-page note. And it started with this. "Since you've decided to abandon your family, I've taken steps to ensure Emma knows the truth one day. I know it sounds like a threat because it was. But nothing prepares you for when it comes in perfect penmanship, sealed with love." The last line wasn't signed Mom, just Anna. Like she'd already erased the part of her that connected to me. Attached to the letter was a photocopy of Emma's adoption certificate, with a sticky note on it that read, "Not yours by blood. One day, she'll ask why you lied." There's a quiet that comes after betrayal. Not peace. Not healing. Just silence, like the air is holding its breath, waiting for what you'll do next. After I read that letter, I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just stood at the sink, staring at Emma's cereal bowl soaking in the water. You ever feel like your body is frozen, but your brain is sprinting toward every worst-case scenario? She was threatening me. Not with custody, she had no rights. Not with violence, she wouldn't dare. But with poison. The kind that doesn't bruise skin. The kind that burrows into memory. I didn't tell Emma about the letter. I just held her tighter that week. Packed her lunches with little notes inside. Took her to the park more. Let her fall asleep on my chest watching cartoons. Because how do you explain to a child that someone who once sang her lullabies now sees her as ammunition? People think cutting off a parent is some dramatic explosion. But it's not. It's paperwork. Conversations. Tiny shifts. Like telling the school not to release Emma to anyone not listed on her form. Like changing her pediatrician and having to explain, with a shaky voice, why her grandmother was no longer emergency contact. Like opening the door every time the mail comes and wondering, will it be another message disguised as concern? My sister called. She hadn't said a word since the party. But now, 3 weeks later, she had something to say. "I'm not taking sides, Marta, but you know Mom's not a monster." I didn't respond. She continued. "She's just broken. She didn't grow up understanding adoption. It's not in her language." I said the first thing that came to mind. "And what's Emma supposed to be? A translation error?" She went quiet. Then added, like a knife hidden in a hug. "Maybe if you forgave her, she wouldn't feel the need to set the record straight. What if the people closest to you only ask for peace when it means protecting the one who caused the damage?" I started therapy. Not for me, for Emma. But I stayed in the room the first time. The child psychologist asked Emma to draw her safe place. She drew a kitchen table. 2 chairs. Me and her. The therapist smiled and said, "No one else." Emma shook her head. Then whispered, "Too many people say one thing and mean another." After the session, Emma handed me her sketchbook. Tucked in the back was a page I hadn't seen before. It was a drawing of a tree with names carved into the trunk, mine and hers. But further down, a name had been scratched out violently. The bark bleeding red crayon over the paper. The new normal meant rebuilding rituals. No more Sunday lunches at my mother's. No more shared holidays. No more pretending. Instead, I made new ones. Emma and I baked cookies every Sunday. We planted flowers on our balcony. We wrote silly poems on sticky notes and hid them around the house. It wasn't just healing. It was rewiring. One day, I saw Emma holding a doll. One my mom had given her years ago. She was staring at it, frozen. "What's wrong, honey?" I asked. She didn't look up. Just said, "I think she doesn't know where she belongs." Then she wrapped the doll in a napkin and gently placed it in the donation box. That same night, I got tagged in a post from one of my mom's friends. A photo of her and a child I didn't recognize, captioned, "Spending time with my favorite little girl to arts family is who you show up for." She was trying to replace Emma in public. I went to a lawyer the next day. Not because I thought she could take Emma, but because I needed protection from anything that looked like love but wasn't. We drafted a cease and desist. Made it clear, any more manipulation, public or private, would be met with legal response. I mailed it certified. No note. No message. Just silence with a legal stamp. That night, I cleaned the house. Wiped fingerprints off the fridge. Lit a candle. Then I opened the last drawer of the hallway table, the one filled with birthday cards and old letters. and one by one I began tearing hers in half. You ever realize the hardest part of grief isn't loss, it's knowing the person still exists, but not for you anymore? I found a photo of my mom holding Emma as a baby and I didn't feel anything. Not love. Not hate. Just absence. 2 days later, I got an email from an anonymous account. Subject: you don't get to erase the truth. Attached was a photo of Emma's birth mother. There's a particular kind of dread that sits in your chest when the past shows up without warning. Like someone cracking a window you thought you sealed years ago. That email was exactly that. A gust of cold air from a world I thought I'd locked away. The photo was blurry. Scanned. Dated. A woman with dark hair, hospital bracelet on her wrist, staring just past the camera. And in her arms, Emma. Newborn. Unaware of everything she was about to lose or gain. I stared at the photo for a long time. Not because I didn't recognize the woman, but because I didn't want to. This wasn't a reunion request. There was no message from the birth mother. Just one line, typed under the image. You lied. She'll find out one day. I didn't reply. Didn't forward it. I printed the email, folded it neatly, and took it to my lawyer. She confirmed what I already suspected. This didn't come from the biological mother. Your adoption was closed. Legally sealed. This looks like a scare tactic. My chest tightened. You think it's my mother? She didn't answer directly. Just said, someone's digging. And someone wants you to feel watched. I walked out of that office with shaking hands. And for the first time since Emma was born, I felt like someone was trying to rewrite my motherhood. Not in court. Not with custody threats. But with doubt. A slow leak of poison, meant to make me question everything I've built. And worst of all, it was working. What if someone tried to erase your love, not with force, but with paperwork and whispers? I went straight to my mother's house. I didn't text. Didn't call. I wanted to see her eyes when I asked the question. She opened the door like nothing had happened. Like there hadn't been a party. Like she hadn't shattered my daughter's sense of safety with a single sentence. Marta, she smiled as if relieved. I'm glad you came to your senses. I held up the printed photo. Didn't say a word. Her smile dropped. She reached out for it. I pulled it back. You sent this. She hesitated, and that was the answer. You think this'll scare me? You think I don't know who my daughter is? Her expression hardened. I just think the truth has a way of coming out. And you've built your life on a fantasy, Marta. Everyone sees it but you. She stepped closer. You're not protecting Emma. You're protecting yourself from the fact that you'll never be her real mother. I flinched. Not because it was true, but because I saw how much she believed it. Her phone buzzed on the table. I caught a glimpse of the screen. A message in a group chat. She showed up. Still thinks she's the hero. But I planted the seed. Emma will ask eventually. I reached for the phone. She grabbed it before I could. You're sick, I said. She rolled her eyes. No, I'm just not pretending anymore. You're not the only one who gets to decide what's best for Emma. And then the most twisted line of all. I loved her, Marta. But love doesn't mean lying to a child about where she came from. On her mantle, where a framed photo of Emma used to sit, there was now just a porcelain angel figurine. No face. No name. Just empty wings and silence. I turned to leave. And just before I opened the door I said, you'll never see her again. Not at 10. Not at 16. Not when she gets married. You made your choice. Her voice trembled behind me. She'll come looking one day. And she'll want answers. Not fairy tales. I paused. You're right, I said. And when she does, she'll see the difference between love and performance. I didn't cry in the car. I didn't scream. I just drove home in silence, Emma's drawing taped to my dashboard. The one with the two of us and the sun. And I knew what I had to do. I took out the last remaining gift from my mother. A gold locket she'd given Emma for her 4th birthday. I opened it. Inside was a tiny photo, not of Emma, of my niece. I threw it into the river the next morning. You ever look at someone you once called mom and realize you've been grieving them while they were still alive? She didn't birth my daughter. She devalued her with her heart. That night I found Emma sitting on my bed, holding the printed photo. She looked up at me and asked, is that the woman who gave me away? I didn't expect her to find the photo. I'd hidden it under a stack of bills in the drawer where I keep broken pens and expired coupons. The kind of drawer no one opens unless they're looking for batteries or a safety pin. But somehow Emma found it. She was sitting on the edge of my bed, her legs dangling, the photo held between her fingers like it might burn her if she gripped too tight. Is that the woman who gave me away? Her voice didn't shake, but her mouth trembled at the corners. I sat down beside her, took a breath. That's your birth mother. The woman who brought you into this world. She stared at the photo. She looks sad, she said softly. Was I a bad baby? And just like that, everything inside me cracked. No, you were never the problem. You ever tried to explain the complexity of abandonment to an 8-year-old without giving them more weight than their shoulders can carry? I told her the truth as gently as I could. That her birth mom wasn't able to take care of her. That some people make hard choices. That love doesn't always look like staying. But my love did. You weren't given away, Emma. You were chosen. She didn't say anything. She just leaned into my side and whispered, "I'm glad you're the one who found me." That same night, I got a voicemail from one of my mother's church friends. "Anna's heartbroken, Marta. She never meant for it to go this far. She just wants to talk." I didn't delete the message, but I didn't call back. The pressure started almost immediately. First it was my sister again. "So you're really going to punish mom forever?" Then my cousin. "I mean, she raised you. Doesn't that count for something?" And finally, the message that nearly made me vomit. A letter from my mother's lawyer. Not a lawsuit, but a formal request for mediation. She wanted visitation rights. Not legal ones, she had no standing. But she wanted it documented that she was making an effort. As if this was some kind of co-parenting dispute. As if she hadn't emotionally bulldozed the very child she claimed to love. What do you owe the people who helped build you, if they're also the ones who taught you how to hurt? I sat in my lawyer's office again. She looked over the papers, sighed, and said, "This isn't enforceable. It's theater. But theater can still damage a child." That's when I made my final decision. No more responding. No more countering. No more clearing things up. Silence wasn't weakness anymore. It was strategy. I created a new email address. Updated my number with the school and doctor's office. Blocked every number with her area code. I wasn't disappearing. I was rebuilding. Emma started therapy sessions weekly. Her psychologist, Dr. Nunez, began using art prompts to help her talk. One day she brought home a drawing of a fortress. Thick walls. Tall towers. A moat. I asked, "What is this, sweetie?" She shrugged. "It's where the people who love me live. People who don't love me aren't allowed in." But the fallout didn't stop. My mother's friends began messaging mutual contacts, spreading whispers. "She's brainwashing Emma. She's weaponizing adoption trauma for attention. She needs to forgive. For the child's sake." One even commented on an old Instagram photo of Emma and me, "You'll regret this silence one day. Grandmothers are irreplaceable." I replied once. Just once. So are children. Then came the final blow. A private Facebook group, one my mother belonged to, posted a thread about parental alienation. She'd written a long post about how her daughter had cut off access to her only grandchild after she supported her through fertility struggles. She called Emma a child from another womb who I loved like my own. Then said some adoptions create families. Others replace truth with delusion. She made it public for 1 hour. That was all it took for screenshots to spread. I didn't respond. I didn't explain. Because I finally understood. You can't argue someone out of a performance when the applause is their oxygen. I took down the last remaining photo of my mother, not out of anger but out of protection. Emma walked in as I was doing it. She didn't ask why. She just handed me a blank frame and said, "We can put us in here instead." You ever stop trying to prove you're right, not because you stopped caring, but because you finally started caring about yourself more? She didn't birth my daughter, she devalued her with her heart. A week later, I got an email from Dr. Nunez. Subject, Emma's story request. She wrote, "Emma wants to write a letter to the woman who didn't want her. She wants you to read it first." Attached was a file. And just before opening it, I realized this wasn't just Emma's story anymore. It was her reclaiming it. I stared at the file for a full minute before opening it. Not because I was afraid of what Emma would say, but because I wasn't sure I was ready to see just how much she already understood. It was a PDF formatted like a school report, all colored fonts and little hearts around the title. A letter to the lady who didn't want me. And under it, in smaller handwriting, "It's okay if you didn't. But I still need to say some stuff." She wrote about things I didn't even know she remembered. How Grandma always called her the girl instead of her name. How her gifts never had notes. How she once heard Grandma say, "It's not like she has my smile." She wrote, "I used to think love was when people smiled and gave you cookies. But now I know love is when someone listens when you cry and still stays." And then the sentence that hit me hardest. "I forgive you for not wanting me. But I don't think I want you either. You ever feel grief and pride in the exact same second?" I emailed Dr. Nunez back with one line. She doesn't need to send it. She already set herself free. That week, I posted a photo of Emma at her piano recital. She was smiling, hair pinned back, beaming with real joy. And for the first time in months, not a single comment from my mother's circle. They'd gone silent. Like even they couldn't pretend anymore. We moved 2 months later. Not far, just enough. A new school. A new park. A new chapter without shadows. Emma decorated her new room with drawings. One showed 2 stick figures holding hands under a big tree. She taped it to the front door and wrote underneath, "This is a house where people stay." What if healing isn't just leaving someone behind, but finally stopping the need to be understood by them? I saw my mother once after that. At a grocery store. She looked older. Tired. She walked straight past me. Didn't even pause. I didn't feel rage. Or sorrow. Just absence. The kind that makes room for something else. That night, I opened my old journal, the one I used to write in when Emma first came home. The first page read, "Day 1, I don't know what I'm doing. But I know I love her." I wrote a new line underneath. Day 2920, she loves me back. That's all the proof I'll ever need. Emma fell asleep on the couch that night, curled around her stuffed dinosaur, her glasses slipping down her nose. I sat beside her, brushing her hair back, the sound of her steady breathing grounding me like an anchor. In the background, the photo we took together last fall, both of us covered in leaves, cheeks red from laughing, hung on the wall. A real family. No asterisk. You ever spend your whole life trying to earn someone's love, only to realize it was never yours to earn in the first place? In part 1, I said, the moment I held Emma in my arms, I knew she was mine. Now I know something even deeper. She's not mine because I claimed her. She's mine because I protected her when someone tried to make her question it. She didn't birth my daughter, she devalued her with her heart. And now? She'll never get the chance to do it again. They say family is forever. But I say real family doesn't need to prove it. And fake family? Doesn't get another chance.